Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm lauranemacquart. First of all, let me apologize for not uploading regularly the past couple of weeks, I think I could say. So as it turns out, when you take up some kind of hobby, like, I wouldn't know, booktube, during a pandemic, when you have lots and lots of free time, when the world starts opening up again and your friends are knocking at your door and saying like, hey, should we do stuff? You have less time for said hobby. So I'm still trying to find a balance between work, doing lots of sports. I think for the past week I've been doing one, maybe two rest days a week, and then social things coming up again. And reading and booktube still needs to have a place in that, but I still don't know. I still haven't really found a rhythm. I still haven't really found a routine in that yet. I still haven't found peace, most of all. Anyway, today I'm going to do a video that is long overdue, and that is talking about my Invisible Cities adventure in, I think it's May, when I read books and made food for Peru and Romania. Yes, we are at the end of June now, and I'm nearly done with the books that I'm reading in June for that said project. But let's start with Peru because I already gave the book back. So for Peru, I read the book The Distance Between Us by Renato, Cisneros, and it's about the author and his relationship with his father, and mostly his father's life. His father's, whose name I've forgotten, which is very handy for this video, and I kind of don't feel like looking it up right now. But his father had a very important role to play in a very dark period of Peruvian history. And the book is kind of split up into three parts. In the first part, it's about the father's personal life, so how his grandfather and his father was brought up, how he was brought up, his relationship with his parents, with his brothers and his sisters, how he met his first wife and their kids, and then how he met Renato Cisneros' mother and their kids, and all that kind of history. I didn't really care about that part, to be honest. There was something that made these people, they weren't friendly to me. I wasn't really interested in their life. I kept also mixing them up, to be honest. Even though they were real people, they kind of didn't feel like they had, I mean, they did have depth, but they didn't have depth that I found interesting, if that makes sense. And in the second part, it's more about Renato Cisneros' father's political life. So how he got into the military because he was a very high up general, and how he got into politics and kind of his role in a lot of the things that were happening. Although it's difficult for Renato Cisneros to talk about that role because his father was quite old when he got Renato Cisneros as a son. So he kind of doesn't really know what his father's role is in all sorts of stuff that happened. And he writes the book after his father has passed away, so he goes up to his uncles, to friends of his father to ask, well, hey, but what was my father's role in this? And kind of not daring to ask the question, did my father kill someone? Did my father order people to be killed? Because he does explain. He uses kind of journal entries, no, not journal entries, but things his father wrote for newspapers. Newspaper is a journal in French. He kind of uses that to show what his father thought of things, because he had a very extreme right view of things and kept saying, okay, we need to stop these people, we need to fight these people, and some of those people ended up dead, so you kind of expect that to be what happened, that his father then played a role in that, but you never, as a son, he kind of wants to keep that open because it's still his father. So that's a lot of things that happens. But so this book was very much written by a Peruvian for a Peruvian, which makes total sense. But as someone who doesn't know a lot about that, there were a lot of historical people, historical places, historical incidents that I had no idea and I couldn't place. I missed a lot of the context to really appreciate and to really therefore see the role of his father in these things, because now for me it was too specific information without knowing the context. So that made it kind of hard to read. Even places, I mean, I basically know what the big city is called, and that's it. And then when he talked about Pinochet, I was, oh, well, that's, at least I kind of know this name. And the names of the big politicians in Peru, those I didn't know. So at one point I did pick up Wikipedia and just have a basic idea of who was doing what at what time. But that really didn't help me in the end to really appreciate the book because I missed this context. But the latter part of the book is also more about Renato Cisneros' relationship with his father, because his father was very much a tyrant inside the house and out. And that made it very hard for him to be his son, for him to be interested in writing, although his father also was interested in writing and his grandfather also was interested in writing. So he talks a little bit more about that and the influence of their life, of his father being a political figure and having all of these guards and being threatened on their life, and oftentimes being afraid that they would die, and how that influenced his relationship with his friends and like the parents of his friends and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting because he was still a very young boy when a lot of this stuff was happening. So I kind of appreciated the third part of the book most of all. I would recommend you reading it if you want a, you know, this inside information, this view of Peruvian politics by someone that was marked by it in that way. I think that the book is very good, but it would help your reading if you kind of know stuff about the Peruvian history. Now, as for food, I made a salad called the Palta Rellena that I found in my World Kitchen Vegetarian book. It's pretty easy to make, although, I mean, it's easy in the sense that you just have to boil all sorts of stuff, but the boiling itself takes time. I mean, I often eat salads during lunch, so considering that and that my lunch usually takes about half an hour, it took relatively a long time. So it had carrots, it had peas, it has eggs. That was the things that I had to boil. There was also just plain easy lettuce and avocado and mayonnaise. Am I forgetting anything? No? Oh, and potatoes, but I think I was too lazy to make the potatoes that day, so that I didn't end up putting the potatoes in. But it was very nice. I really liked it in the end. I tend to not put mayonnaise in my food because, I don't know, it's just a little bit too fat. I don't appreciate it, but this combination was really nice. So let's go to Romania. For Romania, the book I still have because the other one I had got from the library and I had to give back. So I read, in French it's called La Femme qui a mangé les lèvres de mon père by Tudor Ganea. In English this would translate it to The Woman Who Ate the Lips of My Father. But I don't really know what the English title is. I don't even know if this one has been translated to English. But what I really like about this edition is that, so in the flap, so first of all, there's a flap over the cover, and then the cover is exactly the same with exactly the same flaps, which I don't understand. But you've got information about the author on the inside, and then we've also got here information about the translator, who is called Florica Coriol, and there's a little bit more about her, and then also about the artist that made the cover. And I wish they would do that more often. I also really like how colorful this cover is. So this book, I am persuaded that the author was on some kind of hallucinogenic drug when he wrote this, because it's folktale meets very creepy dreams, meets drugs, meets tradition, but also marrying it with something that is more modern. There were all sorts of things happening there, like, wait, what? I'm confused. This is definitely drugs. So it's kind of a retelling about sirens? Is sirens the word? Mermaids. Mermaids is the word. So it's set on a village at the edge of the Black Sea. So this book starts pretty much with the death of a young man called Litsoy, and they find him on... So in this village you have a few apartment buildings that are being made, and then there is also vestiges of an old Second World War monument, and he is found near that Second World War. And he was a very strange guy. His mother is someone that when a man had sex with her, he would then not be able to have sex with anybody. And because of that, no kids have been born from a certain period onwards. And after this guy has been dead, so this death is kind of discussed by a few locals, and they kind of also discuss his mother, and like there is this guy that is really posh, that is really proud about all of his sexual adventures, and then he has sex with his mother, and that's the end. And then we kind of skip forwards 10 years, and 10 men have disappeared. They have probably disappeared in the Second World War monument-y thing. So a policeman goes there undercover to find out what happened, and he discovers more about the history of some of the people that live there, and that is where the hallucinogenic mermaid kind of things comes from, because yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff, but people that came there that had a flute, and with this flute all of the women became very, very horny. So with all of the women, he kind of, this person that is now dead opened up a brothel, and the brothel still kind of exists in this town, and at one point the whole city is completely underwater and the people still live there, and the kids don't really have their own willpower anymore. When someone plays on a flute, or they kind of hear a sound and then they're all just looking at the sea. There's a lot of weird stuff in this. But it was pretty cool. I mean, now it doesn't really make sense to me anymore, but when I was reading it, I kind of could understand, oh wait, this is a reference to that, and wait, this is modernism, and wait, this is just a different way of women to take revenge. So with mermaids, you know, the whole mermaids singing to men and then men drowning, blah blah blah. This is just a retelling of that, a kind of modern retelling. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty weird. And weird in a sense that I kind of don't remember a lot, but I remember liking it when I read it. Does that make sense? It's a very weird book, and I think a lot of people would like it because of, you know, the LCD. Is LCD the word? Hallucinogenic drug value of it. I'm sorry if this explanation wasn't really great, but it's a really weird book. And as for food, I made stuffed peppers, and usually when we make stuffed peppers, I use all kind of beans and I put it in the oven, and I often add couscous to it. But now I made them Romanian style, and then they had to, so first of all, I got some vegetarian beef because I did want to make the recipe as it was, but I also want to not eat meat. So this was the first time that I tried vegetarian meat like that. Not sure if I really liked it, but anyway, with the peppers you kind of put the meat and the onion inside the stuffed peppers, and then you boil that for a while, and you add sauce to it and you add cream to it, and I ended up eating it with rice as well. I think because of the meat being dry, it didn't really have the effect that I was kind of expecting, because of adding the sauce, that it would be a very creamy dish, and it wasn't a creamy dish, but it was still very nice. I don't think I'm going to make again. I think I'm going to stick to my way of making stuffed peppers, but I really like, so this is one of the things that I like with this project and the cooking part of things, is that I'm discovering new ways of making some of the dishes that I do already make. So I'm very grateful for that my boyfriend didn't like it. Anyway, that was all. I'm sorry if this video was a bit rambly and I'm not able to describe the books very well. I realized that I should have done this earlier. I mean, I knew this coming in, that I should have done this earlier, but I realized that because these books weren't very impactful to me, it's hard to talk about them 1.5 months forward. Anyway, if you've read any of them, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any other books from Peru or Romania that you would recommend, also would love to hear from you. How have you been doing? How have you been coping with the world opening up? And how has that impacted your hobbies that you kind of like? I'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.